Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to dive into a world that's often misunderstood, but honestly, it's pretty fascinating. We're talking about people who prefer quiet over constant chatter. We're going to get into the psychology behind it and, bust a few myths while we're at it.
So let's just start right here. Have you ever been at a party, maybe a work thing, and just the idea of making small talk about, the weather, makes you want to run for the hills? Or just find a quiet corner and blend into the wall? Yeah, if that sounds like you are so not alone. And this is definitely for you.
You know what's really wild is the gap between how we see quiet people and what's actually going on in their heads. On the one hand, we slap on these labels, right? Rude, arrogant, bored, anxious, but the reality is so much more interesting. What we mistake for rudeness is actually them deeply processing information. What looks like boredom? That's actually them actively listening to every single word. See, it's not about being antisocial, it's more like they're running on a different operating system.
Okay, so let's go a little deeper. What is really happening inside the mind of someone who just prefers silence? What's the wiring that makes a really deep conversation feel amazing, but makes small talk feel like a total marathon?
Well, a key idea here is something called high receptivity. And no, this isn't some kind of flaw or disorder. It's just a cognitive style. I like to think of it like a computer processor. Some computers are built to handle a million tiny tasks at once, right? But others are designed to run one massive, complex program perfectly. High receptivity is all about that deep, focused kind of processing.
So when you look inside that mind, it's not empty at all. It's bustling. It's filled with all this complex machinery, gears turning, ideas growing. People with high receptivity have this incredibly rich inner world. They take in all the noise from the outside, and then they process it, they formulate a whole thought before they even think about speaking. So it's not people that drain them, it's the noise of all that superficial stuff.
And that leads us to a really, really important distinction. We're not talking about being antisocial here, we're talking about being selectively social. It's all about choosing where you're going to invest your social energy, because for a lot of people, that energy is not an infinite resource.
The best way to think about it is like a phone battery. Some people have a battery that's just massive, and it recharges super fast in almost any social situation. But for folks with high receptivity, that battery might be a bit smaller, maybe more specialized. So every little bit of small talk, every group chat, it just drains it a little bit. When they go quiet, it's not because they're not interested in you, it's because they are actively managing that precious finite energy.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Look at that. Small talk, with all its constant topic switching and surface-level stuff, can wipe out 85% of that social battery. But a deep, meaningful conversation, it can actually be energizing, costing only maybe 20%. So it's not the interaction itself, it's the type of interaction that makes all the difference.
Okay, so we've busted the myths, we get the psychology, now we get to the really fun part. This preference for quiet, it's not a weakness. Not at all. It actually comes with this whole set of unique and really powerful strengths. Let's just call them the superpowers of silence.
Let's break these superpowers down. First, they are exceptional listeners. Since they're not focused on what they're going to say next, they're actually hearing what isn't being said. That makes them incredible observers. They notice the little details, the nonverbal cues everyone else misses. All that deep processing in the background, it turns them into amazing, thoughtful problem solvers. And all of this leads to the final superpower. They are genuine connectors. The relationships they build aren't shallow. They are deep, meaningful, and built to last.
This quote just nails it. The silence isn't empty space. It's absolutely full of information. When you cut back on the chatter you're putting out, you dramatically increase the amount of understanding and empathy you can take in.
So whether you're the quiet one in the room or the talkative one, how can we actually use this to connect better? Let's get into some real practical tips to bridge that communication gap.
All right, so if you're naturally more of a talker, here's the game plan. Try to skip the usual small talk and ask a genuine, open-ended question, something you're actually curious about. And this is the big one. When you ask, give them a second to think. That pause that you feel you need to fill, it's not awkward, it's processing time. Just embrace it. When you give them that space, you're telling them it's safe to be themselves, and trust me, they will appreciate you so much for it.
Now, if you're the quiet one trying to survive in a world that feels like it's always on full volume, remember this is all about strategy, not about changing who you are.
Before you go to a party, maybe just think of 1 or 2 things you'd actually like to talk about. Set a time limit for yourself to manage that social battery. And know that it is 100% okay to politely step away to recharge for a few minutes. Giving yourself that permission is the absolute key to enjoying things on your own terms.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. In this super noisy, fast-paced world that seems to reward the loudest person in the room, what new ideas, what deeper connections, what amazing insights could we all discover if we just took a moment and embraced a little more silence?